Hey, it's Driver. All right, so I got us another load here. We're still in Gillette. So where we delivered in Gillette, the last load was south of town, and this was way north of town. So I had to drive like 2 game hours to get here, but it ain't no big deal. Like I said, I'm still trying to keep our drives a little short, so this is about the shortest I could get. So it's gonna be a little longer ride. It's gonna be 560 miles, so it's gonna be a longer video. Still should be around the hour mark as long as everything goes good. So I got us a forage harvester here. Those of you that play these harvesters and equipment stuff's not brand named or anything like that, but this is another one of those crazy oversized loads. I enjoy doing these as well because they pay good. Um, Typically, an oversized load like this would also require escorts if you go off of what we were talking about last time, but they're not going to be doing that on here, obviously. So we're not going to worry about that, and I'm not going to worry about the flashing lights. I didn't get around to fixing them yet because I had such a long drive getting here. So I'll get that addressed eventually. So our first fun part is going to be getting out of here because right now, like I said, we're an outside view here. So I'm going to see if I can zoom out a little bit. Yeah, not much, but let's see here. Camera movement is a little wonky. So there's a way out over there, but it's kind of tight. So I'm thinking is we're going to turn and go out this way. So it's going to be a little bit of a fun project getting out of here. So I think that's what we're going to do is we're going to go out this exit here to our right because it's a little bit wider. So it's going to take a little bit of maneuvering. I might have to go in and out of the vehicle just to look and see what we're doing, but we'll make it work. So let's get that started and see if we can get out of here first. Turn the engine brake back off so we don't need it. I actually be able to fully make this. Maybe. Let's see. 3 was top down. Sometimes there's collisions on those fences there. Wow. Over here, nice and close, and we'll go back in the cab. All right. Well, that worked out pretty nice. I thought I was going to do like a couple back and fills, but not too bad. If you ever run any of these in the game, just make your turns nice and wide. You'll clear everything back there. You can kind of see there in my left mirror. It's gonna make it, no problem. All right. Take out this parking lot. For those that don't know, I'll stop here for just a second. The reason I'm not using the beacon lights is because on this truck, or I've actually noticed this a lot in game. Let me stop here for a second. It does this. It just lights up the whole cab. And I don't know about you guys. I ain't looking at that garbage the whole ride. So we're just going to do it this way. Nobody coming, nobody that way. Nobody that way. All right. Oh, didn't even take a sign out that time. Nice. All right. Let's get rolling. So, I think I forgot to tell you guys where we're even going. Actually, I kind of forgot. We're going to Montana. I know that. Let me see here. My destination. Boseman, Montana. Boseman, Montana. I'm sorry. So that's where we're going on that. Yeah. Just gonna kind of cruise here. So guys, just trying to watch the road here for a little bit. A little curvy through here. I had to run this road to get here, obviously. A little curvy at places. Not too bad though. Hopefully we'll get some daylight here before too long. You can see that it's starting to get a little bit light out. Well, after 4 in the morning. Oh, well, setting our cruise control, and we're pretty much coming into town here. Our rights here. Loop to do here. Wait on this tanker to make his turn here. I think we're going to be getting up on the interstate. Wait on that car would start right. That way too. Semi there. Turn up here so we'll stay in this lane. While we're making our way over to the interstate, so what I was going to do for our topic today is we're going to continue on talking a little bit about oversized loads. I never ran oversized loads out west, at least none that I can remember of. So a lot of my oversized running was on the East Coast. I worked for a gentleman for a few years. There to turn. Yep. So anyhow, I worked for a gentleman for a few years here in Florida where I live, and the main work that I did for the guy was doing what we called power only loads, which is pulling trailers for other customers. It was similar to what I was doing in the camper business, but I got into the camper business afterwards, after the fact of all that. But he also had contract with some companies, and I'm not going to mention the companies. I don't think there would be any problems mentioning them, but I'm just not going to. But we hauled things for certain companies that were oversized. When I first started working for him, my oversized loads were, they weren't real bad for me. They were stuff that was, I don't know, a foot wider than what it should have been, on the interstate. So it still required the permit. It was not overweight. It was, it was all pretty well legal, other than just being 6 inches wider on each side of the truck. And over time, I graduated up into bigger stuff, mostly because that company changed their design of their equipment, and it wasn't really equipment; it was machinery. But like I said, I'm not going to get into the company or what exactly it was. But so yeah, they changed some of that stuff, and we ended up having to do more runs. He ended up having to buy another trailer to haul the stuff on. So the way they originally did this stuff was it was built onto a trailer frame, and we just hooked up to the trailer and took it to its destination, dropped the trailer, and we were done. Sometimes those trailers we hooked to multiple times because we did international shipping, and we did that at the ports, and I'll get into the ports a little later. So, like I said, they were all used to be built onto the trailer, then they changed the design and created a huge monster, is what they really did. And the way it worked was we had to get another trailer, so we had to buy what's called a double drop, and it's got a low frame. It's similar to what they call an RGN, or a removable gooseneck trailer. And that lane change didn't go very nice. My thumb slipped off the joystick. Sorry, guys. So what it changed into was they changed it to where they were a lot bigger pieces, and we had to get a trailer that was lower to the ground to be able to accommodate the largeness of these. Um, so one of the pieces that they had to put on the trailer, once it was on my trailer and tied down and ready to go, was I ended up being 12 and a half, or yeah, it was 12 and a half feet wide and 14 foot 5 inches tall. Um, that same piece was a regular legal trailer beforehand, so that's how much the change was. So okay, no big deal. The other piece that also went with the equipment set, um, it was just as wide but not as tall. So I was legal on the height. Actually, I was 11 foot 10 on my width, but I was legal height and legal weight. Both of them were legal weight, and that's how I kind of got more into the oversized stuff and oversized hauling and things like that. And I enjoyed the work. It was a lot of fun. I met some good people. Had a what I call my favorite pilot car driver. He passed away several years ago, but I ended up becoming really good friends with him. And heck, we used to get together once in a while and eat out a little bit and maybe have a beer. We hung out at each other's houses, that sort of thing. He was a really nice guy. So that was kind of my oversized stuff that we did. Now the boss, the guy that owned the company that I worked for, he did what we called the super haul, which was on a trailer similar to this here. And this trailer here that I'm pulling is what we call a 3x3x3. So the trailer's in three different pieces. Each piece has three axles. That's where the 3x3x3 comes in. The very front piece of it is called the Jeep. It's a little short piece with the triaxle. And then you got the main trailer, which is the second piece. And then the last piece of it, which is just a pivot point, but it supports weight back there, it's called the Stinger. And he used to pull that with a day cab truck that was originally a tandem axle, then later on a triaxle. What are we stopping for, dude? Jeez, Pete's. Get this thing wound up again. So he would pull that. So I've made mention that in the trucking industry, our loads are supposed to be at a max of 80,000 pounds unless you obtain a permit, and you got to go through a whole permitting application for that. His load with truck weighed, I think it was 240,000 pounds. So it was truck, trailer with load was 240,000 pounds with a trailer like this that I'm pulling here. The difference between the setup that he ran and this here was a different type of truck. He was running a day cab Mac, and here I am running a Pete. But so yeah, he ran the big one, and I actually wanted to run that, and just never did. He told me at the time that I just wasn't ready for it, which I think was more based on my lack of knowledge in the oversized industry at the time. So I ended up leaving working for him. He hired a guy to do what I really wanted to do, which was kind of a stab. I'll admit, I didn't like it. I felt like he wasn't wanting me around or whatever. But the new guy that he hired, he was a big talker, and when I say big talker, he was one of these ones that like to show his guns, so to speak. He always liked to talk real big of himself and belittle everybody else. And I couldn't tolerate that mentality. That's the reason why I left there. But so yeah, we used to run those loads from Houston, Texas to Pensacola on almost a regular basis. I mean, there was times we would go 6 months and never get a load, and then next thing you know, we have loads for a month to do. So it was a lot of fun to do. And if I didn't have an oversized load, I could go all the way out there. It was about an 8.5, 9 hour drive out there. And if I went out there, I could pick up and sometimes get a couple hours back before I had to park for the night. So, yeah, And there's a whole lot of regulations that run in with the oversized stuff. One example right here, we're coming up on the weigh station, and it told us we had the bypass, which actually scales up on our left there. Um, all permitted loads, if that scale is open, you have to enter it. On this game here, we have the pre-pass is basically what it is. They call it a different thing, but in the U.S. it's called a pre-pass, and it tells you if you do or don't have to enter the scale, which it's very nice. It's very convenient. With an oversized load, if you have a permitted load, and no matter what kind of a permit is, whether it's oversized, overweight, whatever, you have to enter that scale and show them your permit. So, um, that took a little bit of time out of your day, but I mean, it was well worth the money. That's basically you were charging the extra big bucks for, was not only to be able to handle the equipment and be experienced at it, but some of your downtime to get it done. I spoke about the time restrictions when you're traveling too. So you have to count all that in. Yeah, there's just a whole lot of rules and stuff when it comes to oversized loads. I have a book. I actually repurchased the book recently. Um, and it basically tells me, it gives me a lot of information. Part of the information in there, it's a little limited on this part, but it will tell me how many escorts I need if I'm running oversized. But here's the thing: when you get your permit tells you what you need. What your permit does not tell you is your time restrictions. So your major cities, what time you can start, what time you have to end, that sort of thing. So it has a calendar system built into it through the year that tells you when the sun comes up and when the sun goes down during a given month or quarter. I can't remember exactly how that part worked. But it gives you a lot of information as far as, what to kind of expect when you're applying for your permit, at least. That if you're 12 foot wide, you're going to need one escort. If you're going to be 14 or say 15 feet wide, you're going to need two escorts. If you're going to be 18 or 20 feet wide, which is ungodly, but if you was at that size, you would also need a state escort. And the same thing on the heights. If you're under the, say, 14 feet, in the US 13.6 is what your max is supposed to be for width or height. I just realized I'm doing like 80 and here to 70, catching these guys anyways. But so if you're under the 14, you just have to have your standard escorts. If you're over 14.6 or something like that, like Florida is 14.6 and up, you have to have a front high pole. So there's information like that in that book. It's not a state ran book. It's not one that each state's got together and said, okay, put this in a book. It is just information that's compiled from those states and put into a book that you can purchase. So when it comes to running an oversized load, there's a lot of work that goes into it. It's more than just going and hooking up to the load and then just taking off and cruising down the highway before you even go get the load. So the company will contact you and say, hey, and this is a company you've probably dealt with for a time, and they will tell you, hey, we got this load and here's what the dimensions are of it. When do you think you can haul this and what's your price? And you're like, okay, well, price is going to be this plus permit, plus escort, and you can use that book to get an idea of what your permit might cost you, or at least what you may spend in escorts. So it just kind of gives you a rough idea of what you might be getting into. What this guy's doing here? Over here. Oh, you bugger. Right, that changed. So, yeah, then the customer's giving you all that information. You're like, okay, well, let me get back with you and see what everything's going to cost. So you figure your numbers out real quick, usually within a couple hours, and then call them up and say, okay, this is what I came up with. This is what it's going to cost you approximately. When would you like to ship this? And they'll tell you, okay, we're going to ship it so and so day. So then you go on to each state's website. There's a special spot on their websites, or even a special website in general, that you got to go to to apply for that permit for each state individually. Slow down. This guy's going to try to cut me off. I know better, so I'm just going to stay right here. Yeah, come over. Let's go. So you apply for your permit for every state. The thing is, you got two ways that you can apply for your permit. So now most people will want to apply for all of it at one time. That way you get them really fast. When you're applying for your permits, you're telling them your dates of when you want to run. Now, some people will do one state at a time. So we'll use the old run I used to do, Texas to Florida. So you would apply for your Texas permit, you'd wait for confirmation from them. And what you're looking for is not only that you can move that oversized load on that selected date, you need to look at the routing, because they'll tell you in the routing that this is the roads that you can take. They tell you what roads you're allowed to take. You don't get that choice. You can, in most of the permit applications, you can put a suggested route and they will look into it. But if they deem that you do not fit on that road, they don't want you taking that road for whatever reason, they'll deny it and tell you why, and then you got to reapply. I don't know if there's an application cost for that. So, for example, normally if you're going from Houston to Florida, you're going to cruise Interstate 10. So you're going to give them the local routes that would get you to Interstate 10. You're saying, I'm going to take Interstate 10 all the way to Florida, or to the state line of Louisiana. They'll come back and tell you yay or nay on that. If they tell you no, usually they'll have, like, for example, if it's due to the route, say they don't want you to take Interstate 10, maybe there's road construction somewhere between Houston and Louisiana that you don't fit in, they're going to say, well, it's not exactly denied, but we're updating your route because your route has a restriction for your oversized load, so you're going to have to take this other route instead. So that route may put you back on the interstate before you get to Louisiana, or it may not. And that's where you need to know that information before you can apply for your Louisiana permit, because you need to tell them what road you're going to be on when you come in the state. Is it going to be Interstate 10? Is it going to be US 90? Which highways are going to be? And then you tell Louisiana, what road you're coming in on. This is what the other state's giving you, and this is the route you'd prefer to take. And then they do the exact same thing, and it's all the way across the board. If you run the route enough, like we did, to know what routes that they're going to pretty much give you, you can pretty much apply for all of them at one time, because you already know that they're going to kick you off the interstate and put you on US 90 in Texas and run you into Louisiana that way, for example. And in Louisiana, they're already going to put you on a back road anyways, and then they're going to get you back on the interstate, and you're going to be on the interstate when you come into Mississippi. It's kind of how the way it works. So it's getting to know the system, But if you don't run that same route all the time, it can be a little bit daunting until you figure it out, or just kind of deal with it, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, there's a whole lot of work that goes into it. And then when you get your permit from the state, that state will let you know of any restrictions that you need to know of. And also they'll let you know of your escorts. Do you need an escort? How many do you need? What kind of escorts do you need? And that's coming with the high pole and things like that. On the big crazy loads where you're stupid tall, stupid big, and I'm sure you guys have probably seen real-time videos of these, where they'll have several cops. There might be utility trucks that's either raising the power lines or moving them so you can get through. Yeah, that turns into a whole nother fiasco. So now you've got all your information on how many escorts you need and all that fun stuff, and then you can start getting all that lined up, because you need them people to be there that day. There's no sick day on this. They got to be there. A lot of times your permit is only good for a couple of days to get you through an area. For example, from Houston to the Louisiana state line will only take you 2 to 3 hours at most. And in that drive, you got to have your escorts. Your permit might be good for, say, 3 days, but if your escorts don't show up for 3 days, you got to redo your permit. You got to buy a whole new permit. Well, Not only does it jeopardize that permit, it jeopardizes all the permits in line because they only give you a time window. This permit's only good for these days. Now, there was only one state, and there are other states that do this, but when I was running my oversized stuff, because I didn't do the big crazy stuff, I had what they called a blanket permit, and it was a permit that was purchased annually. So I don't remember if there was a certain date or time of the year, but basically you bought the permit and it was good for a year. And on that permit, it permitted me up to this number, this size, this weight, and all that stuff. And it already had every bit of information I needed for all my escorts and all that stuff. If I needed escorts, I think Alabama required me to have 2. They were a weird state. So yeah, there's just there's a whole lot that goes into oversized loads, guys. A lot of people don't realize that, Also too, so a lot of people don't know that the oversized escorts, the pilot cars, they are certified and insured. They are a legit business, and most of the states out there requires that they go through some kind of class and get a certification to do oversized escort. I know that if I was to say I wanted to do that and be an oversized escort, I can, here in the state of Florida, I can go to a class. I don't even know who does the class anymore. My friend that passed away used to do it years ago. But I would have to go to a class. It would cost me, I don't even know what it cost. But there's a fee to take the class and get a certification. And by doing it in the state of Florida, it covers me in almost every state except for 3, if I'm remembering correctly. And the 3 that it doesn't include, one of them is the state of New York, and 2 other states out that way. I want to say Jersey is another one. So I wouldn't be able to escort in those states, for example. But I can, if I really wanted to, go up to New York and say, hey, I want to take your certification here too. And I can take that certification and carry those in my truck or my escort vehicle, and I would have that information, or I'd have those certificates to where I could escort in pretty much every state in the country. But being that I'm from Florida, if I was to say want to be a oversized escort, then I'm probably only going to want to worry about down here. The chances of me going up there might be slim to none. Come on, dude, let's go. Too far. Actually, this is going by pretty quick, guys. I know I'm real close to this truck. I'm trying to off them a little bit. Easy. Trying to change lanes and all this. We gotta get off right here, I think. Yeah, there's a whole lot that goes on with oversized loads. And all my knowledge is coming from the US. I have basically no knowledge of what goes on in the other countries. Every country has their own ways of doing things. So I don't know those. I have watched several videos of different countries and stuff like that. I used to like the outlaw trucking and whatnot. I just like watching their stuff because, the terrain of driving that they got to do over there and the way that trucking is hardcore compared to the way that the truck driving is in the US. Here, the big old crazy exit. On here. Y'all doing? Holy. These are the same people that just got off the same highway and are turning. I hadn't discovered this one yet. Look at this right lane. We're not really that wide. We're real long. Sorry about the silence here. I was A, I'm paying attention to going to this town, and B, I was trying to think if there was anything else that I was wanting to add to the knowledge of oversize and whatnot. So, oh, another thing. So, when it comes to doing oversize and the escorts, so um, with escorts, it that gets interesting, especially if you only have a escort, just one. Um, in every state, it changes. It's different, but in most states, it's the same. So we're currently on a 4-lane road, so there's two lanes going, at least 2 lanes going each direction. If I had an escort right now, he would be following me and just making sure that nobody's gonna run into the side of me. That's kind of his job, is to kind of watch back there. Now, he's also a blocker, so if I need to get into the left lane a little bit to avoid a vehicle on the shoulder or an obstacle overhead with something like that, he would block the left lane to give me safe passage to move over. Um, Now, if you're on a 2-lane road, so there's only 2 lanes going each, or 1 lane going each direction, um, he would be in front of me. And his job in front of me is to kind of be the alert, letting everybody that's coming toward me know that there's a big oversized load heading their way. He might be doing like that one cop was doing, trying to move them over to make room for me, things like that. So that's where those get a little bit trickier. I'll rip this red light. If I do it real quick. So this trailer here, if I can get turned fast enough, that is a 3x3x3. So that's 3 triple axles. So for anybody that was wanting to know that. I think that's going to be kind of the knowledge that I've got for you guys today. We're about 4 miles away, so if I try to talk about anything else, that if I think of anything else, we might go into overtime. So this is actually a pretty quick run, surprisingly. Of course, I say that as we're sitting at a red light, right? Yep, we're pretty much here. It says we're 3 miles away, but I can see the place right there. Wow. It's going to be an interesting one to get into. As wide as we can, and hope we miss everything. I can barely miss everything. Holy. That would have been one of those turns where if I had had the escort following me, I would have had the escort block the left lane. I'd have moved to the left lane, and then the escort would have immediately blocked the right lane and kept anybody from passing the right to make that turn wide. And just a disclaimer, the information that I've given you about oversize and whatnot, um, to my knowledge, most of it is still relevant. there's some that may not be. And, you know, I'm just kind of telling you the stuff that I know. Anything that I tell you guys is not, may or may not be 100% accurate, just due to different areas and how much things can change over time. So don't ever go off of what I tell you to think that's what you can do in real life. There we go. Delivered. Nice and easy. I was expecting this to be almost an hour-long video. So this is going to be a lot further than I was expecting. But look at all them bonuses, all that money. So 58 grand for that load, guys. 58 grand and change. So not bad for a 561 mile run. I thought that was 600 something. Huh, we must have lost some miles in between, but it doesn't matter. We're delivered. So let's close that out. We'll go back to this here. Is this still showing our trailer here with us? It is. Okay, let's go outside and we'll shut the motor off. Get the mouse moving here a little bit. I can't see it very well. Yeah, that's our load, guys. So, alright, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys riding along with me and hanging out. It's been fun. These trips seem to be getting shorter and shorter. I don't know if it's because I'm blabbering too much or what, but I hope you guys are enjoying the stories. I know that there's been some that are, that I do know of, so I'm not planning on continuing with some stories or knowledge or information, whatever you'd like to call it, as we do these videos. So, anyhow, guys, I'm going to get off here, go get some stuff done. So, y'all have a great day, and I'll catch you later. See ya.